Welcome back to our exploration of Orion's Arm. Today, we will be talking about the Soft Ones civilization. The Soft Ones are one of the oldest civilizations encountered by Terrigens, going back around 30 million years of history. They live on a scattered region of planets in the Perseus Arm, and while the homeworld of the Soft Ones is unknown, it is theorized that the planet had oceans of ammonia dissolved in water. There were probably fluctuations in the amount of ice and liquid over periods of time. Sometimes, most of the oceans were frozen as ice, and all the remaining liquid was concentrated in extremely salty seas of brine. Other times, most of the ice was melted, and most of the ammonia water mixture was liquid. This could be due to geothermal heating, solar insolation, or an eccentric orbit with its parent star. Whatever the case, life on this planet had to contend with constantly being frozen. Since water expands when frozen, life on this planet did not develop cell membranes, which would rupture if the cell froze. Instead of cells, there are fractally branching balls of fatty acids with active groups that control what moves in and out. Changes in the concentration of dissolved substances do not harm these balls, and neither does freezing. As such, organisms from this planet can survive being frozen for long periods of time, similar to the Mu. Speaking of the Mu are the ones who provolved the Soft Ones as xenosophonts. The ancestors of the Soft Ones the Mu first encountered were probably hunters who slid along the ice of their homeworld, kind of like penguins. Their bodies consisted of a central sphere connected to 6 appendages. These bodies were made out of skin which surrounds a gelatinous interior. Their bodies were very flexible and could contract and expand. They extended and contracted certain parts of their body in order to manipulate objects. In order to hunt, they would crush small prey with ice and insert the prey into their underside. They could see through spots on their skin and could sense touch and temperature. They could also communicate by vibrating the ice and could sense these vibrations from underneath their body. They also reproduced in an interesting way. When 2 ancestral Soft Ones came in contact with each other, they would transfer genetic material. When an ancestral Soft One was about to reproduce, one of their pods would begin to go limp and grow pods of its own. Then, it would fall off and become a mini version of the parent. This is similar to mitosis. When Mu found these ancestors 30 to 40 million years ago, they decided to make these proto-Soft Ones smarter over millions of years. Eventually, with the assistance of the Mu, the Soft Ones developed and were able to invent spaceflight and establish an interstellar empire. They gradually split off into different cultures and terraformed planets to fit their environmental needs. Some groups became more expansionist, and others fled in search of other areas. Eventually, only a small conservative faction of Soft Ones remained, living on terraformed ammonia water planets. Soft Ones store information in their bodies using their gelatinous brains. Fibrous parts of their gel transmit signals to each other using chemicals, and these act as nerves. Memories are stored in pockets of macromolecules. These gelatinous brains are very fluid, which causes the Soft Ones to change their personalities and preferences over time. Soft Ones often scramble their brains and let them reform to change their personalities, either through external force or through the use of drugs. Soft Ones have a great understanding of their own minds, and use tools to manipulate their own minds to their will. They store memories, skills, traits, and personalities in huge libraries and insert them into their brains when needed. They have studied what each trait does, and its benefits and drawbacks. They store the minds of great individuals and use the traits of these individuals to change their own minds. Creating and changing mental states is considered an art form for the Soft Ones. The Soft Ones love recording information and finding patterns in said information. Like Mu, Soft Ones think slowly. The Soft Ones view the universe as a flow, and that beings should observe the patterns around them and flow and change along these patterns. Good ideas should be preserved, but Soft Ones believe that most good ideas have already been preserved. Soft Ones society has mostly stayed the same over millions of years. Each world they live on normally only has a single spaceport. However, there are many villages across the surfaces of these worlds. Each village normally has around 500 Soft Ones, and each village is its own independent polity. The Soft Ones rarely stray outside of their small villages, except during pilgrimages, when millions of Soft Ones migrate to different villages, or if violence or weapons are needed. When towns from across the planet meet in order to authorize them. In an ordinary Soft Ones village, technology is not used that much. The Soft Ones use sleds drawn by flat, flounder-like beings. However, the Soft Ones do have advanced technology. They just prefer not to use it, as they regard technology as a tool to be used when needed, and then put away. Because of this, the Soft Ones have barely developed any new technologies for millions of years. However, the Soft Ones still use some technologies that they find useful. They have nanotechnology for medical personnel and powerful computers in their libraries and town centers. They also have records of advanced scientific knowledge and stockpiles of weapons and starships. The technology of the Soft Ones is mostly based on or taken from the technology of other species. They could develop higher level technology, but choose not to, and most Soft Ones are perfectly content with living in their small villages. Some Soft Ones, however, have begun to assimilate into the culture of the Terrigen sphere. These Soft Ones are called the Ep. We will talk about the Ep in the future, and the war they eventually found themselves in. But for now, thanks for watching, do all the YouTube things, join the Discord server, and goodbye.